I was born into a family with a long history of emotional distress. At the age of 6, I was removed from my mother's care and began living with a foster family. We were removed from my parents' care after their divorce, resulting in my mother's deteriorating mental health. She expressed her desire to end her life with her 3 children, including myself, alongside my father's violence at the time and an unstable family income with limited support from my grandparents. At age 9, I lost my mother to suicide. I still remember the day I was told by my foster carers that she passed away, of which I had 4 foster carers within the space of 4 years. I do not recall the details of what was communicated, but I do remember crying for hours, maybe even days. A part of me was relieved for her. The last time I saw her in a psychiatric hospital was where she told me she loved me and would miss me. I knew deep down this was her saying goodbye, and to this day I wish I had that moment with her again. I reread child protection case notes some years later, which identified I was an overparentified child and quite resentful at my mother's lack of presence. Through my hypervigilance of responding to the trauma, I began to behave out of survival and safety, socially engineering leadership skills and qualities necessary to protect myself and my younger siblings, who I viewed as my children. I cared for them alongside my father and grew up in significant poverty due to a lack of income security from the government and the immense task of being a single parent. In addition, after my mother's suicide, I lost all contact with my maternal grandparents due to the shame that they expressed over losing a daughter to suicide. This picture paints an intergenerational and intersectional story resulting in a childhood littered with abandonment, abuse, neglect, complex trauma, and grief. No wonder we developed mental health disorders. It appears to be a healthy adaptation to consistent adversity. In 2020, I'm living with what psychiatry defines as bipolar affective disorder, which has enabled transformative personal insight. I am a survivor, a suicide survivor, and almost took the path of my mother at a similar age. I thought I was going home to be with her. I now fear to live. I do not fear death. Severe and enduring mental distress often results in deep critical self-reflection, advanced empathy, and spiritual enlightenment. I found myself through my adversity. I found my purpose, I found self-love, and I found out I did not have to take the same path as my mother. At other times, my diagnosis caused distress for me and others. The medications adversely impacted weight gain, lethargy, tiredness, and poor sexual libido, which are all ironically essential to gaining a sense of recovery. Then there were the hospitalizations. I've spent over 6 months of my life in and out of psychiatric hospitals and many more as a service user in the community, accessing clinical community mental health services and psychosocial disability services. Through my diagnosis, I learnt the importance of human connection and belonging, as this instills hope and purpose for a meaningful life. Most of all, through my lived experience, I found my voice. I felt empowered and somewhat enraged by the system designed to address the genesis of distress, trauma, with an unfounded focus almost solely on the biomedical perspective. Through my lived experience, I developed leadership skills and a deep purpose characterised by a drive to be there for others in the pursuit of bettering humanity. Through my university studies, I enrolled in social work as I was passionate about social justice and human rights. I graduated into forensic mental health, supporting lived experience consultants for the Forensic Hospital and Forensic Community Mental Health Service program. This work led to an interest in the lived experience profession and survivor movement, and the beginning of my passion for partnering alongside persons experiencing mental distress through my own journey. My personal, professional, and academic experiences aim to elevate the voices of persons experiencing distress. I often utilise my social work professional qualification to subversively enter spaces closed to peers and then promote the lived experience professional agenda once the system is safe. I presented at multiple international events, including the annual Mental Health World Health Organization GAP Forum and the inaugural Global Mental Health Ministerial Summit. I currently represent the lived experience voice on the National Advisory Panel for the Australian Association of Social Workers and recently represented the Youth Mental Health Voice at the United Nations Youth Report launch in Parliament, speaking about the importance of focusing on structural determinants in politics such as equity, justice, and poverty alleviation as central to solving a significant proportion of our mental distress. Today, I am a global human rights activist in mental health, effective in influencing prominent global health ministers on the impact of inequality on population-level mental distress and general health outcomes. I am drawing on the survivor movement and professional academic discipline of MAD studies, incorporating a strong disability justice lens. I completed an international diploma in mental health, human rights and law, which was co-designed by the World Health Organization for Global Mental Health Advocates, and am returning as an associate lecturer in global mental health peer work as a human rights discipline in late 2020. I currently work as a mental health clinician for the federal government and lecturer at Victoria University in the Bachelor of Social Work program, where I'm co-designing Australia's first mental health unit around lived experience perspective and MAD studies in social work. I have found my purpose and strength through survival, resilience and growth from complex grief, loss and trauma. My illness, in quotation marks of course, and mental distress have been a neurological diverse gift from the universe, and most probably a gift from my mother in spirit, who I absolutely embody and live with in my life of dedication alongside my siblings. I have photographs of them all by my bedside to remind me of my purpose and drive for the work I do every day. I learned through peer work training that I can share these gifts with others to cultivate connection and hope. Illness is one lens of my story. Transformation and growth through distress is another. We need alternatives to psychiatry and to challenge the systems and institutions of oppression that treat us with no dignity or rights. We all want the same outcomes. Therefore, we need to collaborate through attention to power and equity in the mental health and broader systems.